Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Slay to Success Talk Show. My name is Rochelle, Slay or Slay Queen Hemingway, CEO and founder of Slay to Success. And y'all, we're in for a special treat again tonight. We have been on fire for the past few weekends, and I'm going to tell y'all, when someone suggests someone to be on the show, I do not take that lightly. I'm like, yes, let's have a conversation because you know how we do here, y'all. Okay. First of all, we start from the word slay. All right. Slay is our foundation. Slay means to kill it, to dominate it, and to nail it, to be on point, to impress greatly, and to dream big and work hard until you own it. And so, as we were talking through our conversations, keep that on top of mind. Now, for what this show is called for, it is serving a purpose. All right. I decided to start this show so that way I can continue to amplify voices and close the gap between those that are accomplished to being of influence. All right. And so we talk through leadership, wellness, personal branding. We also talk a little bit about business acumen. So if that is something that you're interested in, please do not hesitate to come back here. We will be here on Sunday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where we are here with a guest usually. And if we don't have a guest, guess who you're listening to? Okay. And I'm not a bad, person to listen to for, 30 minutes, 45 minutes when when I'm by myself. Now, the purpose of this show is to inspire, to educate, and empower individuals by sharing actionable strategies. And so we are going to be guided by the principles of the SLAY method, which is S for strategic identity, L for leadership presence, A for aesthetics authority, and Y, your narrative power. Because at this core, at the core of this show, it really connects real life experiences with the practical tools, helping you to transform your identity, your influence, and visibility so you can achieve the success that you're more than capable of. It's about turning potential into presence and presence into opportunity. And we all love opportunity, whether you're in your business, your career, or in your public facing role. Okay, now that we got that kind of out of the way, who do we have here tonight? Please make sure that you are letting us know where you're streaming in from, okay? And giving us your name because we want to give you a shout out because you decided you wanted to stick around with us for a little while. So tonight, y'all, I have a SLAYMAZING guest. Her name is Gwendolyn Turner, and she is the founder and CEO of Turner World Traveler. A travel company specializing in curated group travel experiences designed to bring people together through culture, connection, and shared experiences. With an award-winning background in hospitality leadership and years of experience managing hotel operations and guest experiences, Gwendolyn brings a high level of professionalism, service, and attention to detail to the travel industry. Her experience in hospitality taught her how meaningful experiences are created and how exceptional service leaves a lasting impact. Through Turner World Travel, she organizes domestic and international group trips, escorted journeys, and multi-day travel experiences that allow people to step outside their routines, experience new environments, and connect with others in meaningful ways. She believes travel is not just about visiting new places, but about personal growth, perspective, confidence, and creating memories that stay with people long after they return home. As an entrepreneur and leader, Gwendolyn is passionate about helping others embrace new chapters in life and understand that it is never too late to explore the world, reinvent yourself, and pursue new experiences with purpose. So, y'all, please give a warm round of applause for our guest tonight, Gwendolyn. How you doing, Queen? And thank you so much for being here on the Slay to Success Talk Show.
I am so excited to be a part of this program this evening. So very, very excited. Thank you for welcoming me, and I'm looking forward to our chat this evening.
Yes, I am too. Like, I get super excited especially when they have a different background and different experiences is what I've had. And when we got together and you started to tell me about who you were, I was like, oh my goodness, perfect fit. All right, perfect fit for the show. So tell the audience a little bit about yourself. Like, who's Gwendolyn and what's Gwendolyn really about?
Sure. So, interestingly enough, right, as you shared, I do have a background in hospitality. That was what I consider to be my first career. Spent about a decade, just over a decade, award winning, really got an understanding of what it is to create an experience, right? When
Mm,
it comes to hospitality, when it comes to that space, there's nothing tangible, right? You
yeah.
might get a souvenir, but there really isn't anything tangible that, it's not a tchotchke, it's not a product, but it's a service. And what does that mean is taking up time and space, right? And creating a memory, right? What
Mhm.
memory are you looking to create? So that really gave me an opportunity to flex my muscles as it relates to developing and creating memories and experiences in a way that become memorable positively, right? Because things
Yes,
can be memorable in a,
girl.
in a negative way as well. Um,
I think every person who has, stayed in a hotel have had the good, the bad, and the ugly. Okay. Like you can get all the way down to those things, but yes, positive, memorable memories is what we're looking for. Yes.
Yes, 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 yes. So, worked with some of the big names, right, in hospitality. Worked at four-star properties. So, really, that elevated experience was very highly trained in that. So, for sure. And then I pivoted to human resources. Actually,
Mm,
after spending over a decade in hospitality, pivoted to human resources, and that really honed those people skills even further for sure. In a different capacity, but still delivering an experience from an employer employee perspective, and perception, right? What is the perception? Human resources, right? You hear that word and most people shudder, right?
yep.
But recognizing that it shouldn't be that way, and I was very much made it my mission to educate what is our function within an organization, and really how to work collaboratively
Yeah.
with employees to make it as memorable positively an experience as well. So, and done that, and we're partnered with CEOs, small businesses, entrepreneurs, as well, to develop and grow strategically in a way that aligns with business goals, and being able to develop. And that's really where my love for travel has always been since a young child. I remember my dad would pack us all up right back when we had station wagons,
Oh yeah.
pack us all up in the station wagon. And while didn't fly every year, we would look forward to our summer vacation. And it was always this in my mind, this memorable, this thing, right? We got to finally eat in the car. Never ever were we allowed to eat in the car except on vacation. We got to drink soda, and we
Yep.
had snacks, and
Yep.
my mom would cook brownies and pack us all. It always was this positive thing for me and my sisters and brothers to look forward to. So, and it was always an adventure. We never knew as children where we were going, but we
Yeah.
always knew it was going to be the time of our life. We got to stay up
Oh.
late. We were able to do things on our vacation that we weren't allowed to do, right, in our
Right.
normal everyday life. It was,
Yeah.
um, we got to experience our parents in a different way during that time as well.
Mm.
So that's really my first connection with vacation. You are allowed to be or become this fun version of yourself, this you know, a little loose, right? You throw away some of those restrictions. And so I
Mhm.
think that as a child, that always stuck with me, like something to look forward to. This is in a way I get to explore in a way that outside of my normal everyday. So that's really kind of foundational experience that shaped that transformational power of travel as a
Yeah.
small child as well. And so then through those professional careers, really developing and growing what makes an experience positively memorable, right?
Yeah.
So that's really, and Turner World Travel was born from that.
Listen, I mean, you just kind of like laid out so many things that I want to just talk through a little bit more. So, before we do that, y'all, okay, so we got Chris here. Chris, thank you so much for being here live with us tonight, holding LinkedIn down. So, thank you so much. We appreciate you and blessings to you as well. And we also have Dr. Rhonda Beckwith, my sister in arms, is here. How you doing, Queen? Thank you so much for being here with us tonight. She has a comment here that she says, "My childhood neighbor has had his station wagon, the first SUVs with paneling on the side until last year." I think we all can resonate and relate to the station wagon. Our station wagon was in the form of either the big old Cadillac, all right, and then it was the SUV Volkswagen bus. I mean, it was like, I mean, it was this, it was a long, and it was, and you're right. Everything that we did for vacation was such an experience because we could do all those things that we could not do when we were at the house. But I do want us to go back to what you were talking about at the very beginning through hospitality and HR, because one of the things that I like to talk about is leadership, and every leadership is different for people based on their experiences, for where they have worked or been in business. So what were your kind of highlighted moments, if you will, for either one of those particular career fields? Kind of give me some good things that you learned, maybe some lessons learned, and talk about maybe something that was challenging for you that you now like you learned that lesson and you're using that now in your current business, because this is something that I know a lot of people always are interested in, especially for those that are aspiring to be in that next level leadership or starting a business or starting a new career or wherever they may be.
So, yes, lessons learned, of course, right? When you're working in hospitality, when I elevated to positions where I'm managing hotels, multi-room hotels, large hotels in metropolitan areas. And the biggest lesson that I learned, and I learned this as a young teenager, I was 19 years old under the
Mm.
direction, I will never forget this manager's name, Deneen McKnight. And Deneen McKnight poured into me in a way that I will forever remember.
Oh.
She poured into me, provided me the education, the experience, and the exposure.
Mm.
So, as a leader, I took that same lesson that she poured into me. I always poured into my teams,
Yeah.
and what that reminded me was when my team succeed, that's really a definition of my own success.
Right.
So likewise, in my business now, when my guests have the amazing time, that's my greatest satisfaction. When I'm able to, when those who are my assistant managers or managers under my direction and leadership go on to be award winning, it
Yeah.
is beyond that satisfaction speaks so much louder than when I win my own awards, right? With
Yes.
my
I
name on it,
agree.
knowing that I've been able to positively impact others,
Mm.
positively pour into someone else. Now, I will speaking of lessons learned, one comes to my mind because I think about it constantly as a entrepreneur, and it's learning the lesson, right?
Mm,
When initially things don't go as you have planned in your
yeah.
mind
Yeah.
and you internalize it, that's good, right? That's me being human. But am I learning the lesson? What is the lesson that I need to learn from this experience? And so that takes a more resilient person, an individual. And that resiliency then allows you to get better.
Yeah.
Because if you don't learn that lesson, if you didn't go through that experience, you will never be able to be exposed to that. And I'll never forget working as a human resources consultant, I lost a client.
Mm,
Completely blindsided me because I
mm,
thought I was taking care of everything that they asked of me, I was doing to the best of my ability. They never had any challenges. What did I what was the lesson I learned
mm,
was I needed to be proactive instead of
mm.
reactive,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
I was responding to their direction instead
Yeah.
of leaning into thinking what they don't know or what they aren't asking me for, what they're not saying,
Yeah.
what am taking the time to really lean into that. So
Mm,
it's a lesson that I take with me all the time, especially when it comes to my clients. Right now, I'm on site in New York City, right outside of New York City, actually in the Catskills, doing market research. So developing a multi-day autumn leaves um, experience for this upcoming fall. I don't just go by pictures, right,
yeah.
online or reviews online. I want to put my own eyes and ears. I
That's
want to
right. I know that's right.
shake hands
Yeah.
with who am I going to be negotiating, contracting with. So important, right? When a client asks me proactively, oh, I already know there's a Walmart right across the street within walking distance. If you wanted to get up in the morning and you like to walk outside in 30 minutes, yes, this location is going to be conducive to that.
Mhm.
Or I know for sure what that energy feels like when you walk inside of the hotel. I know what the rooms actually look like, not the pictures or the
Mm,
photographs. So learning the proactive approach, thinking beyond what is being said,
yeah.
is so very important. A huge lesson that I've learned for sure.
Yeah. I too agree of the proactive and learning the client, knowing the client, even if you understand their thinking or decision making, it all plays a part into providing that experience that they're looking for, right? And you want to give them the best experience. So I love that. Alicia is here. Hey, Queen, how you doing? Also on the LinkedIn side, y'all holding it down over on LinkedIn. Okay, so thank you so much for being here live with us tonight, Queen. And she does agree with what we were speaking to. More than likely, the proactive part of what we were sharing or what you were sharing. And then Chevy's here. Hey, Queen, how you doing? Thank you so much for being here on the live show as well. Love that you all are here because this is such a great conversation that you've already kind of set us up for. So, for those that have just joined us, we talked through Gwendolyn's career when she started out in hospitality, and then she went into HR, and now she's doing traveling, making traveling arrangements. And she's right now currently in outside of New York City in the Catskills, just taking a view of the location that she's going to be providing an experience for her clients. So, y'all, it's just such a great thing for us to talk to different people with different backgrounds. And so, in all of this, because, what you have shared is kind of this long standing career of excellence because you have really put the work in and decided now that you wanted to launch a business. So tell us a little bit about your business journey, because sometimes, we just see the name, right? We see the name of the business and we see you. But, like, tell us, how did this all come to be, and kind of what things have you faced since you started?
Sure. So, the birth of the business, as I mentioned earlier, travel, the transformative power of travel is, as a child, definitely my parents introduced me to that. So that love was there. Working in hospitality afforded me opportunities to travel internationally, and exposed me as a young person to locations and destinations and experiences that I probably would not have. And so always have traveled, right? Traveled is something that, regardless of how I was professionally, I've always done on my own. And it's something that, as a mother, have instilled in my daughter, right? My daughter is on her third passport and she's just 18 years old. So always
Wow.
something
There we go.
that
Third passport.
always something that I truly believed in. But there was, right after the pandemic,
Mm.
I would be individuals, friends of mine would always, pick up the phone, reach out to them. They say, Gwendolyn, where are you at now? Like, where in the world is Gwendolyn? Not where in the world is Waldo. Where in the world is Gwendolyn? So it always, and I, laugh it off, not even thinking about it. But what I recognize in those conversations is what came easy to me,
Mm.
traveling,
Yep.
was overwhelming to so many others, right? The
Yeah.
logistics of how do you pick your destinations? How do you travel so easily through the world? The logistics of it all, the flight, either land or air, right? Internationally, what did your visas? Do you have to have all of these questions that came so almost intuitively to me,
Hmm.
created obstacles for others to be able to experience it. And they would always ask, you seem to be so kind. And so, well, that was as a result of travel. When you're
Mm.
lost in a country that you don't speak the language and you're at the mercy of strangers pointing with a phone, some kind of app that you're
Mhm.
trying to translate.
Yep.
What do you learn? You learn the goodness of people, you learn the
Mhm.
kindness of people, you recognize we're all the same, actually. Right?
Mhm.
We're truly all the same. You understand what it means to be patient. You know that, wow, today they may not have had a good day. It has nothing to do with me at all. Nothing to do with me at all. And so after the pandemic, therein lies this urgency of human connection, human relationships. Really, we almost on a grand global scale, we recognize, we value that. We value human
Mm.
connection. We value connection experiences over things.
Yeah.
Right? We long to be with one another, to be in community with one another. And so that's really, as I learned the business side of it, right? Because everyone does not have the same travel style as I
Mm.
do.
Yeah.
Um, what is the travel style that I want to speak with? It's similar to doctors or physicians, right? There's areas of specialty. We have cardiologists,
Mhm.
right? We have
Yep.
oncologists, we have
Yep.
dentists, we have all these areas of specialty. And likewise, when it comes to the travel space, there's areas of specialty as well.
Mm.
So, learning what is the niche area of specialty that I wanted Turner World Travel to go into. Travel is huge, it is
Yeah.
broad.
Yeah.
What is it that Turner World Travel, what did I want that to? And so over the past, two, at the beginning, right, figuring that out
Mhm.
was a journey.
Yeah.
What did I like? What did I not enjoy? Where did I see the greatest impact? And what was the avenue that brought me the greatest joy? And
Yeah.
so that was an evolution within my business. So Turner World Travel today, we focus on escorted group travel experiences.
Mm.
That's not where we started,
Yeah.
but that is where I know for sure I have the greatest impact. And my
Mm.
our escorted group travel experiences are for the curious traveler, who wants to travel well without the stress and overwhelm of needing to figure it out by themselves, right?
Mm. Mm-hmm.
So the traveler that says, yes, I want to explore these destinations that I seen on TV or people I've looked up, but I don't even know, where do I stay? How do I get there? I don't want to be by myself in these destinations.
Yeah.
That's where Turner World Travel, that's our lane. That's our area of specialty. Escorted, meaning myself or another travel professional travels with the group, right? Escorted
Mm.
group travel experiences. And when we say group, many people think of, people hoarding cats, right? Shuffling
Mm-hmm.
people from one
Yeah. Yeah.
destination to the next.
Mm-hmm.
No. So, escorted group travel experience to Turner World Travel is we focus on small 16 or less travelers when we do our international destinations. And we also do bus. So that's motor coaches. And even motor coaches, we limit it to 35 travelers on a 55 passenger bus. And the reason
Yeah.
is to create community, right? We are not looking into being packed like sardines on a bus
Mm-hmm.
experience. It changes, it shifts the experience when you get to move around, when you're not crammed up, when you get to have a little bit of breathing room. And it's only 35 of us, right? We're not,
Yeah.
who are we missing? We
Yeah.
all of that gets eliminated. So we have evolved. We know our lane. Our area of specialty is escorted group travel to really remove a lot of those barriers to travel
Yeah.
for for persons.
I love that, because you're right. After the pandemic, a lot of things changed for the entire world. And I know travel was one of those. It was very limited up until maybe a couple of years ago. And then things started open up, and people were always asking, like, how did you go to this place? Or how do I get to, I know several of you who set up experiences. I think you're the first one actually does the escorted group experience with traveling. And I liken it similar to, so, I got a few of my military sisters here alive. And so we used to travel, all over the world, and they have a team lead, someone who was, assigned to be in charge and responsible, and, was at the gate, marking you off, making sure you were there. We walked to the gate together. We got onto the plane together. We got onto the travel of a taxi or a bus or however we were going to get transported to our location. And then we had an agenda or itinerary of the things that we were going to do based on that. And so, that's what I kind of, picture and envision for what you're doing, but without a uniform on. Okay. Like, and not rolling around a bunch of heavy duty bags, with like beer in there. And I'm like, okay, because I think too now, like people actually see that we were in such a way during the pandemic that life is fragile, right?
Mm.
And people wanted to be able to create these memories of going to places that they have always dreamed on going, but they never ever really did. And so I have family members who are now traveling that have never traveled in their previous life, if you would, because we don't know when the world's going to shut down again. We didn't even know it was going to shut down. So now, and even now, there is some discussions about
Mhm.
limitations on where we can travel and what we could do. So y'all, yeah, look, this is the optimal time to start your travel plans. And if you're looking for an escorted experience, Gwendolyn's got you all day. Okay. She will help you get to where you need to be. She's into the details, which I absolutely love because I'm not a detail oriented type of person. I like someone who can take care of all that and just have a good time. So, sharing about your business, starting your business and then now kind of seeing it evolve and from where it initially started out, because I think that's a lot of times for business owners, they're somewhat disappointed, maybe
Mm.
frustrated that what they started out with isn't exactly what it looks like now, right? And I always say, as part of what this is all about, entrepreneurship is the game of figuring out
Mhm.
what is actually working, what's not actually working, and pivoting when necessary, right? So you pivoted out of, HR. And I meant to ask you, why?
So the reason we moved from hospitality into human resources is hospitality is 365, 25 days,
Mm,
right? 24 hours a day, all the time, always on. And I became a mom. I was a mom.
mm,
And so priorities shifted, right? When it was time to choose between uh, job and child, my child always won. And so
mm,
the level of excellence I always like to deliver, I was finding myself not being able to do that
mm.
in the capacity that I was accustomed, that I knew was able to perform, right? I had the
Mm.
ability to do,
Yep.
but with changing priorities, no longer able to do. So we then, right, I was called to another direction. Like, where was, uh, I had this almost internal struggle of, uh, uh,
Mm-hmm.
I want to. I know I have the capacity to be able to do this. I have the ability, just not the capacity, because I have this other priority.
Yeah.
And so that's where that initial pivot from hospitality focused to human resources came from.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that you shared that because there's many of us who, are going through the season of still raising children. All right.
Mhm.
And, having to sacrifice so much to the job or to the profession, and not being able to be there for your family. And we making choices, right? Making the choice to do something that is in alignment. And I talk about alignment a lot because I feel like there's a lot of us that are out of alignment when it comes to our career, our focus of where we want to go, priorities, whether or not it's family or your relationships or whatever that could be. And when you're out of alignment, it just
Mhm.
seems like it's just you're overwhelmed, you're being overworked, you're stressed out. There's so many things that are not working for you, they're actually working against you. So making that decision for you to, say, hey, you know what, this ain't working. This is not working for me, and I got to do something different. And then Mark, uh, another brother in arms, I track all, my military family here. And so Mark is yet another one. And he says priorities change, the pivot is important, you know? So, and that is a message I think that many of us are starting to learn and paying more attention to.
Yes,
You
yes,
know?
yes, yes, yes. Um, because you spoke about that alignment, and I knew, right, when I am stressed, right, or distressed, and I'm struggling, what's not in alignment, because I can do hard things, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Something being difficult, something being challenging. Um, you can right, you can definitely um overcome those, but when it is de-stressing, right,
Mm.
constant distressing, and you recognize, okay, something is so went back to school, right, went back to school, got another another degree in human resources, just so that a reference point, making sure that not just working off of intuition,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
really having the education to support it as well. So that was really solidifying when just absorbing it. It came so natural and easy to me that yes, this was the guidance and divine direction that my life needed to go into. And
Yes.
similarly, when my calling toward creating Turner World Travel was happening, many a conversations, that same leaning was happening as well. So, um, out of alignment, right? It served
Mhm.
its purpose. And
Mhm. Yeah, for
how
when it
do
was. Yeah.
we, yes, right? It worked, enjoyed it. I was starting to feel like I don't love it like I used to love
Mhm.
it
Yeah.
anymore, right? I don't
Yeah.
being honest with yourself, right? Being honest with yourself. And now pouring myself into this business without even someone saying, get up, I need you to work on your business today. No, right? I didn't need that when I was working in hospitality. I didn't need that in human resources, and I surely don't need that. Why? Because I'm in alignment. And
Yes,
I know
agreed.
this is
Yeah,
alignment.
it is alignment. And I share with people all the time, if you can get up, with no alarm clock, do what you love to do without even knowing what time it is, because you are just so into the business of developing and building. That is when you know. That's when you know. And it's not wearing you down. Okay. Because I'm seriously, I have seen business owners. I've met, quite a few. I do a lot of networking. And they just tired. Okay. They're just tired. And they tell me that they're tired, oh my goodness, this is just so hard. And and I get it. Things can get hard, but if you are looking drained and and it's taking the life out of you, maybe you need to do an assessment. And I'll share this too, because I know I have a lot of women and men who are transitioning and pivoting from one long career to the next. You don't have to stay in the same sort of industry or career that you have previously been in. All right.
Mhm.
You can go into anything that you desire. Don't just say, because again, we both have human resource degrees, okay? Because in the military, they give you one for the roles that you've been in, right? So I knew that I did not want to do human resource. I also have a background in medical. I did that for many years. And I knew I was not equipped to sit beside someone's bedside. Okay. I was like, I have done that and I cannot do that. It all seems too exhausting to me. So when people were looking at me like I had 10 heads, so I was like, I'm going to get a master's degree in strategic leadership because I love the art of and science of leadership. And I'm also going to get my image consultant certification because I love all things related to image. People
Mm,
looked at me with like 10 heads. They were like, because they had stovepiped you into
yes.
this is what you have done all your life. You should just continue on to that path. And I say, before you start making the decision on what you want to do next, let's start thinking about what your passion is and what you can get paid, okay, for with that passion. All right. So, like, let's just stop and think about it because we all have skills, experiences, and expertise that we can package up really well,
Hmm.
right? And be able to provide the experiences that we have also experienced for ourselves. So, I can go on for all the nights about this. Okay, Glenroy said, "Good evening, good evening, my brother. How you doing? Hope all is well. Everything is well. Hope all is well for you this afternoon. Thank you so much for being with us live. Hey, James, how you doing? Y'all just holding it down over on LinkedIn. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here live and catching a little bit with us. Gwendolyn is just really sharing about her career, her pivot. Now she's in business as a world traveler. She even shared about her experience through childhood, when her parents would pack them up into the vehicle and they would go out on vacations, and so how she used that experience as a child. And now she has her business, and creates escorted group experiences traveling wherever, okay, you desire to go. Okay. So, and I love that. So, let's talk a little bit about mindset. Okay?
Hmm.
Because this too is something that sometimes people have difficulty of understanding the shift, right? Of working for someone else, okay, versus working for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And the mindset shift has to occur. There has to be a change. So, what happened for you? Because, you were in the careers and you were working for somebody else. So, how did that play a part in where you're at now?
I have always, right? If I recalled previously about a manager that poured into me, I recognized that I needed to pour into myself in this new role as entrepreneur.
Mm,
And how did I do that? Is through relationships, right? Through
yeah.
other relationships. I needed to attach myself with the experts in this area of business, right? As a novice, as a rookie, right? As a
Mhm.
rookie, I needed to attach myself to those who had more experience, right?
Yeah.
So that, and I did that. So began networking with entrepreneurs, and I recognized too that those entrepreneurs, they didn't necessarily need to look like me. They didn't necessarily needed to be in the same industry as me. And a good friend of mine has become one of my biggest cheerleaders and mentor, gave me a book called The E Myth, and it
Mhm.
talked about entrepreneurship and that
Mhm.
mindset shift of going from an employee to a business owner.
Mhm.
Eye opening read.
Mhm.
And it's a book that she gifted me. And she said, this will become, showing age, an encyclopedia for you to reference. And I have it on my bookshelf. And when those moments of doubt and am I doing, is this where I'm so, all of those that happen from time to time, as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, I go back and I reference that for sure, right? And several other books I consistently read, and pour into myself in that way. I'm currently reading a book, by Adam Grant called The Hidden Potential.
Mm.
Amazing read, right? An amazing read, because human behavior is we forget. We forget, right? We forget sometimes, often, the great things that we have done in the past,
Yeah.
that we have been able to accomplish, and doubt starts coming up, right? We
Mm.
are so short-sighted at times, right? what
Yeah.
what what is happening right now, when then we often need to be forced to take a step back and look at
Yep.
the bigger picture, right? In
Yep.
5 years, Gwendolyn, look where where you started, where you are right now, you can do hard things. You
Yeah.
have done hard things. And
Yeah.
so that mindset has to be different. And so I have a morning routine, right? I
Hmm.
journal for sure. I pour into myself as an individual. I think, self care gets this, spa days and
Yeah.
pampering.
Hmm.
No, what self-care looks like is, this filling of your cup
Yep.
before you can pour into others. And so
Yeah.
especially as an entrepreneur, filling my cup, taking that, I get up early,
Yep.
I rise at 4:30 in the morning. It allows that's when my brain is at its optimal, that early. I'm able to pour into myself. I journal, I read, I have meditation. I talk in intimate communication with my higher power as
Mhm.
well. And so that definitely develops that shift when it comes to mindset as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, I just love all of what you shared. Um, Especially the parts of when, we forget. We are very short memoried. We forget what we have done and what has brought us to this point, and we can just sabotage ourselves. I mean, we can just really talk so negatively to ourselves about we could have been doing this, we could have been ahead here, we could, we go into that because we forget. And so
Hmm.
it's so important that we, know and acknowledge our accomplishments, celebrate for where they were, where we were at, and look as them being a part of the journey. Like you've been
Hmm.
here before, okay? Like there was a process to get you to this point. And I constantly have to say that to myself because I look at my career, right? And I'm like 30 years of service. Okay. Right. And then as an entrepreneur, I'm like, oh, okay, this is a long game, right? But I'm like, this is a long game that I have been at before. All right. So I have to just be consistent. I have to show up. I have to be ready. I have to prepare myself. And I'm with you. Morning time is that self routine, those habits that we create that you can continue to do. They're on repeat. They almost become like I do them without even knowing I'm doing them because I just done
Hmm.
them for a very long time, but they actually produce the results that I'm looking for. And being at very optimal, high level frequency, because that's really what it takes as an entrepreneur, because you have to push past all of this, the mind works that was going on, plus the work that you have to do technically. So Glenroy, he's written in here for us. Mono, mono, monetization, okay, I've got to get that word out right, of your experience and passion is a dream of every person that dreams in color.
Mm.
It is possible to be pragmatic and galvanizing your dreams to become reality. The ability to be disciplined is necessary. Kudos to Gwendolyn for finding the code and utilizing it effectively and efficiently. Okay, Queen. He's like, listen, you crack the code, you understand what it takes. And, I wrote down Hidden Potential by Adam Grant. Y'all, if you don't have these books and E Myth, I've heard of E Myth many times. I have not gotten it. I will be getting both of those today. Okay. So I can add those to my toolkit as well. So, it does take investing, right? Investing
Hmm.
in yourself, investing in your business. That was one of the things that was told to me at the very beginning, because in the military, and I'm sure it happens in hospitality and HR, they just give you stuff, right? They just say, hey, you know, have these things. They send you to conferences, they send you to
Hmm.
training, they pay for all the things, right? When you're in business, guess who's having to pay for these things? You. Okay. And so what are you investing in? Because if you're not investing in your business, do you think anybody else is going to invest in your business? How can you expect people to do that when you haven't really done the things to communicate that you are at the level for which
Mm-hmm.
you can now exchange monies, right? Because that's really what it boils down to. So, investing in yourself, not only in the business fees and all those other stuff, and then your training and so forth and so on, but investing into yourself when you're talking about reading and learning and creating relationships, and I say the right relationships, because not all relationships are good relationships. Okay, I'll just say that right
Mm-hmm.
now, especially for the seasons, because seasons change. And so
Yes.
you have to understand that putting the boundaries in place, that is self-care. All right.
Yes.
Protecting your energy, protecting your mindset. So I know that that's part of this wellness mindset kind of, you know, um, areas that we sometimes forget that are a part of our experience. So love that we had that conversation, because I'm telling you, it's a lot. But so how long you've been in business for?
So it will be this upcoming October will be 5 years.
Oh,
Kind of soft launch, right? July 2021. Um, and then officially, right, registered with the state October of
yeah,
that year. So kind of fielded out like,
yeah,
does this work? Does this is this are people able to connect the dots and are able to respond? And
yeah,
I will never forget a good friend of mine, he said, "What took you so long?"
yeah.
what what took you so long?
Ah,
And it was affirming, number one, that this pivot
yeah,
was truly in alignment. Um, and I often go back to that comment, um, when those feelings of self-doubt happen, right, which they do when you're
yeah,
going through sometimes a challenging season, or some friction that happens or disappointment that happens, and remind myself, no, this is it, this is definitely it, and then go back to what is this teaching me, right? What lesson am I learning here? Learn the lesson, put it in my toolbox and move forward, right, and
yeah,
move forward for sure.
yeah. So I want to thank you for just an enriching conversation, because this has been absolutely amazing. And I know our listeners have been so interested in all this. And y'all, if you got any more comments or questions for Gwendolyn, make sure you put them into the chat so that way she can answer those for you. Um, so you mentioned that you have your daughter, okay? So, and you're married.
Yes.
Right. And so, you know, and I'm of the same. We have our son and my husband. And sometimes it's, trying to work all these things and at one time, and understanding sometimes you're working more in the business one day maybe, and then the next day you may have a little bit more flexibility to kind of do some family type things, because like on Saturdays what we're doing is we have decided to just make that the family day, right? So
Hmm.
we go shopping, we go eating, we go to the movies, we go to all the things, because during the week my husband's working, our son's in school, so all the things are kind of like sporadic. Then our son's in basketball, so that comes up. So what have you found to be some of the best practices, if you will, for kind of managing? I wouldn't even say it's a balance anymore. There's no balance, right? Like managing, your relationships with your family, and kind of how y'all are moving forward with that.
And I laughed because you mentioned there's no balancing. It truly is managing. And what I have found, interestingly enough, right, those early years of starting my business, because I am passionate about what I do, I could spend hours upon
Mhm,
hours
mhm,
pouring into the business, and that created some imbalance. And
mhm.
so, my partner, my husband, graciously
They let you know, okay?
Said, made comments like, when when is the wife gonna show up here, right? When does Gwendolyn become? And so what I have found is scheduling time
Yeah,
as as scheduled, or as it might sound, like, will you schedule time? Nope. But that's exactly what has been proving to be kind of there was a comment made about the code, unlocking the code. That is the code, is to schedule time. So Wednesday evenings is mommy and me time. So my
oh,
daughter, and I 5 o'clock, shut down the laptop, right? Turn off the TV. We, whatever she would like to do, whatever you would like to do. We want movies. You want to tell me about all the things we've done. So that becomes a sacred space and
mm-hmm.
time.
Yep,
And my daughter's 18 now, so
yep,
that looks a little different,
yep,
right?
yep.
um and I've allowed whatever she needs from me. However, I need to show up in that space, I try to do that for her, right? So this is dedicated time. You don't have to compete with the laptop. You don't have to compete. This is my dedicated time to you. I'm distraction free. And likewise, on Friday evenings, my husband usually gets off quite early, 3 o'clock in the afternoon on
Mhm.
Fridays. And so that's our time to
Yeah,
spend together. So he works usually one weekend day. So it really, that Friday evening and that time becomes really sacred and something that we are looking forward to. And so we have those priorities, those individuals, my daughter, my husband. I don't ever want them to think that my business comes before them, right?
mhm, mhm.
Or that they have to compete, because
Yeah,
that's not, by no means, right? And they,
yeah,
yet they recognize where I'm able. My daughter will tell you she has been able to travel to many destinations. And I often joke, I feel bad for whoever she decides to date, because they're going to say, oh, let's go here, let's go. And she's like, been there,
mhm.
done that. You're going to have to, I said, someone's going to have to fly you to the moon to impress
Right,
you.
exactly. They're getting close to it, so she might just fulfill that, because Lord, I can only
So
imagine.
yes, and so that is what, if it's not on my calendar, it doesn't happen. But
Yeah,
now I look forward to. I'm like, my daughter's like, oh well, we'll do that on Wednesday. We'll do this on Wednesday. And we have had some of the, I think as a young woman, as she is learning and learning who she is and how she wants to show up in the world,
yeah,
it's allowed me to transition and play a different role
yeah,
from, I think, to a coach. I'm more in a coach
yeah,
space with
yeah.
her as an 18-year-old young woman, where she's figuring things out, right? She's driving and working and getting ready to graduate from high school and getting ready to go to college. Like, all of these life events are happening. I'm playing coach right now.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so that transition has been a lot smoother. There was friction at the beginning, right? Because I'm like, well, I've only been, I've been your mom, right? That has been kind of my definition. And now how I show up as your mother changes, but that role will never change. So
Yeah,
that's been and it has been very successful thus
yeah.
far. We move through schedule changes and, human, hey, I'm my daughter, I'm pooped, I'm exhausted, I don't have it.
Mhm.
So allowing each other grace and space, but we get back to that sacred time for sure.
I love that. I love that. And it is important that we do that, because if you're anything like us, y'all, we could be in these businesses and wouldn't be even thinking twice about what else is going on. But we got to. Okay, maintain these relationships that are important to us, and don't let the business kind of take over.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have Glenroy who has another comment for us, and he said, "Knowledge is a necessary investment for anyone, whether they are a business owner, employee, or even unemployed. The more you know, the broader your options are. Read all you can, listen to as many informational podcasts as possible, sign up for emails that speak specifically about your interests, and surround yourself with the information and literature, and use what you ingest to your advantage." That is good sound advice, Glenroy.
Amen.
Okay, I mean,
Amen.
seriously, like all of this is something because we are in the times where we are ingesting junk. Okay. There's a lot of junk out here. There's social medias and people spending way too much time on things that are not working for them.
Mm.
All right. And it's not adding any value. It's just, and I get it. We all have like our little pastime and we want to be doing that. But if you're elevating to the next level of leadership, whether in your business or in your career, we need to make sure that what we are putting into our mind, like this media, diet that we have, it needs to be where it is positive and it is adding value. I'll just say that.
Yes.
So
Mm-hmm.
love that you put that out for us. Okay, Queen, we are at the top of the hour. Like I already knew this is going to happen. Okay. It always happens for every guest that I have here. It's like we're getting to conversation and it's like, oh no, it's 8 o'clock already. All right. So I'm going to just wrap it up here. So have you shared anything or haven't shared anything that you would like to share? We'll do that first. So I'll leave a few minutes for you to do that.
Sure. So not really, right? I think our conversation this evening was, I love the organic nature of it. I love being in community and in conversation with your audience. Clearly love the energy in the room for sure.
Mhm.
Loved everything that we had, the conversation this evening, the pouring into the tapping into one another, right? And that's so important. I think that that's something that we mentioned briefly, relationships. You
Yeah.
talk about protecting your energy,
Yeah.
alignment, and recognizing when that space is not in alignment. It's okay to remove yourself, right? Not good
Mhm.
or bad, it's just not in alignment. And um, I've had to do that, and sometimes it's hard and difficult initially, but when you recognize what is the end goal is, it's not good or bad. It's just not in alignment. That's
Yeah.
it. It's just not
That's
in
it.
alignment. And so, um, yeah, and I think that that's most important. A lesson that I have learned. Um, Not good or bad
Yeah.
necessarily, right?
Yeah.
But those relationships are, is it aligning with your evolution, with you leaning into the next step, right,
Yeah.
into where you foresee yourself, right, your goals, your strategic goals, your long-term goals. And if not, it's time to pivot, and that's
Yeah.
okay. It's not
It
good or
is.
bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you don't have to be, all like, I don't know, overly, dramatized about it or anything like that. It's just what it is. And then you're recognizing where you're at. All
Right.
right. And I think that's where people they shy away from. They don't want to clearly call it out or name it. We have to name these things and then we have to take the appropriate action. So I'm so excited for your journey and what's the next for
Mm.
Turner World Travel. Okay. And I'm gonna tell you, if we're gonna be planning any escorted experiences, you the first queen I'm calling, okay? Because I'm like, I want a luxury experience. I don't want to be thinking about nothing. I just want to go and just be. So, and I'll take some people with me. So, bring some people with me. But I do have a last question for you before we close out tonight. And I ask every guess this. And it was so ironic because this past weekend I was able to spend time with my aunt, and she is 82 years young. And we went out to eat and came back to my house and kind of hung out, and she was just sharing all the things that have, really happened for her in her life and giving me some more wisdom to think about at
Mm,
her age and just passing it on to me. And so at the end of every show, I ask my guests, what would you want your family and friends to say about you on your 80th birthday? So she had this big old 80th birthday party. They all came and so forth, and they were giving her flowers. And
oh
they were
wow.
they were saying the things that she wanted to hear because she had been taking the actions all of her life. And so she was like, yeah, they really kind of, gave the picture of who I am. So I put that on you. Like, what would you want your family and friends to say about you on your 80th birthday? If God gives you those years, you have a
Mhm.
party. What are those things?
Well, one, the biggest accomplish I think meant for me would be is my daughter saying, "Good job, mom." Right?
Mm,
You did do a good job. I only have, I have one child, and so
yep.
I always say there's no do-overs. This
Nope.
is it, right?
This is it.
Um, and recognizing that there's a period of evolution that we went through together, right?
Yeah.
As she was growing, I was growing as well, right? And pushed me in ways that nothing else could have, motherhood.
Mm,
And that would be the greatest, right? To say, my daughter saying, I appreciate all the things that you did and the sacrifices you made, because often they don't know,
yeah.
right? We
Well,
don't know,
well, you
right?
know what? But you know what? When we can look back and we can say that about our parents too, right? Because
Yes, 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 yes. We
they say
don't
the
know.
same thing.
We don't know until we have our own, the kind untold, right? The untold sacrifices. And then that I was true to myself, right?
Mm,
True to who Gwendolyn, and I showed up authentically. Regardless
mm,
of what I was doing, I always showed up authentically. You didn't have to wonder who you're going to get. You knew who Gwendolyn was and
yeah.
is, and that consistently, that the travel pushed me to that, right, allowed me to be that individual and that person. And so, this idea of successful business owner and, multi-million dollar sales years and all those things, because I spent some couple years working in the hospice space. And
Yeah.
so I know for sure when you are facing your own mortality, what's important.
Mm,
And I've
mm,
always lived my life, or try to live my life from that perspective of,
mhm,
when I'm looking at my own mortality, did I get to say that? Do the people who I love know that I love them?
mm,
Did I get to experience life authentically? And that, to me, the peace that comes from those two
mhm,
is beyond anything else. It really becomes priceless. I've had a good girlfriend of mine who passed away now almost 8 years ago.
mm,
And saw that, and we got to say, your children will be taken care of. You did a good job while you were here. And that peace that she got, was she was able to rest
mm,
well because of that. So I know for sure that those things are important, and that's what I want to hear. And so I live my life in such a way that, do the people I love know? Do I tell them? Do I show them? And do I get to experience life authentically?
mm.
And that's it. Mhm.
Well, shoot. First of all, that was a deep, deep answer. And I absolutely love that you share that with us. Um, sometimes when I ask the question, it's sometimes, people just kind of reach for kind of like the surface level, and that's fine, right? You're just kind of like,
Mhm.
oh my goodness, this is a deep. But when we can really stop and think about our experiences and what they have done to shape how we live, and then you could articulate that, that for me is like a powerful testimony. So I thank you for that. Sorry for your loss. And this conversation tonight was just absolutely slay amazing. I do want to thank our guest, because y'all could have been anywhere else because there's a lot of things going on, but you decided to spend a little bit of time with us tonight, and we are so appreciative. We had Chris, we had Dr. Beckwith, Alicia, Chevy, Mark, Glenroy, Dr. Finlayson, which is James when I called him earlier. Um, please, we know that these things, are just not by happenstance. You came in here. Donnell, thank you so much, my brother, for dropping in here. We're getting ready to sign out, but I am so glad you showed up. Okay, hopefully you are doing well. If you are just joining us, or you're watching this later on through the week, go ahead and put in hashtag replay, or share with us what you thought about our conversation. We would love to hear your insights. We'll respond to you. And Glenroy says her tone and cadence in answering the question was amazing. She has the it factor when it comes to capturing the audience. Listen, Glenroy, just for you. Okay. He said you got the it factor, queen. All right. So, I mean, you just need to do way more podcasts, way more speaking about what you do and how you do it, because you have really done this first class for us tonight. So, I appreciate you. So, y'all, we will be back here, okay? Because, this ain't going to stop. I got another guest coming up next weekend at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here on a Slate to Success talk show. And if you're looking for a little bit more of inspirational, but yet and still transformational experience, and you can come back here Tuesday at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Rise and Slay talk show. So I thank you all for being here with us tonight. Thank you, Gwendolyn, again. And everyone, have a slay amazing week and keep on slaying until you can't slay no more. And I'll see y'all very soon. Goodbye.
Thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you. Enjoy your evening, everyone.
Goodbye.